I totally forgot that there's mountains all over between Yerevan and Tbilisi. Last time I came it wasn't this cold, but now it's snowing. So I wanted to make this video to try and explain why and how I chose to rely on a 30-year-old Frankenstein's low production dirt bike for a transcontinental ride across Asia. Both for anyone thinking about doing the same kind of trip on their vintage bike and wanting some tips, but also as a way to justify it to myself and kind of put into words why I felt this would be a good idea even after getting used to my 2023 FE501 that proved to be an amazing adventure machine after a 2-month-long journey through the remote Andes. I guess I want to explain why after feeling how an amazing modern high-performance dirt bike can ride, I still decided to store my Husqvarna in Peru and fly halfway across the world to Armenia where I had stored my XR400 after riding it over 10,000 miles from New York City through Europe, through the Balkans, through Turkey, and into the beginning of my next part of the trip. We're back in Yerevan. In about a few minutes, the mechanic is going to pick me up and we're going to head over to the garage, which is like an hour away, to get a hold of the XR400R that I left in complete mess. Needs a ton of work. I brought back a lot of spare parts and stuff to fix it up. Unfortunately, the airline lost it, so hopefully they can fix it and deliver it back to me in a few days so the mechanics can get started with all the gaskets and seals and all that good stuff. But yeah, this is going to be an episode on basically the whole prepping process, the repairing of the bike, and yeah, getting back on the road. Mechanic should be here any minute in a blue van. We're gonna start on it tomorrow and get some rest for today. Alright guys, it is officially the start day of fixing up this bike. I'm here with Varujan that is helping me. And the parts, a lot of the gaskets and stuff that I ordered for this bike has not come yet, but will come soon. So in the meanwhile, we're gonna focus on some other things like welding the bottom of the frame and some electronical stuff. So yeah, we're gonna start tearing into it. One of the most basic things we started with was cleaning out the carburetor since it had been left for over 4 months, which is plenty of time for those sensitive fuel passages like jets to get clogged up, especially the pilot jets. Anyways, after getting all that squared away with the Mikuni car rebuild kit that I brought, we spent some time rebuilding the front and rear brake caliper and master cylinder, as well as fabricating a new brake lever that was previously broken. Now, moving on to one of the more critical parts of these repairs was changing out some of the old seals that were causing huge engine leaks. So here we had the old O-rings. One was really pinched. I don't know if you could see that rectangular shape, but we just replaced it with the OEM. The first ones were pretty simple and involved cleaning out and replacing the O-rings at 2 of the points where the oil lines meet the engine, coming from the oil cooler that sits on top. After those were replaced, it was time to tackle the more difficult one, which was a decompression lever mechanism seal. For that, you had to take off the valve cover since there is a pin that holds the mechanism in place. And after putting everything back together, it was time to tackle the electrical. For this bike, I'm running a Baja design regulator rectifier to convert the AC current to DC, which is then channeled into this small battery that is placed over the airbox and right underneath the seat, which I found was a pretty good place, and there's not many places to put this thing inside this bike, so that's where I put it. And since everything was off the bike, it was time to check all the connections, redo any of the ones that were bad, and kind of go through everything, wrapping up whatever needs to be wrapped up. After that, it was time to fix some of the controls, like replacing the clutch perch that was broken, replace the lever and cable, and after replacing some other less critical components, it was time to put everything back on the bike and tune the carburetor, which was not totally easy since this is a pumper car, but we got it to a place that was better than what we started with. Now, as for the forks, these came off a 1997 CR250R, which is a motocross bike that uses a double cartridge system. And we noticed there was a broken seal on the free piston that was not going to be able to be replaced there since we couldn't source that part that we needed. So we just put everything back together, and it was time for me to head to Tbilisi, which is about 272 kilometers from Yerevan.
Guys, we are ready to do our first day back on the XR400. Yeah, we're also gonna hit up a suspension shop that specializes in suspension so we can get that front forks taken care of properly.
If I'm being honest, I was very nervous getting back on this bike, and there was still a lot of things I wasn't completely sure about, and on top of that, it also felt like I was completely relearning how to ride this bike. But I think this bike reminds me that not everything has to be about the most optimal specs and best value possible. It's about falling in love with something you picked out of instinct. Sometimes it can be as simple as liking the way it smells after warming up the motor, or how it pops when you roll off the throttle. For me, the reason I love this bike has more to do with how it forces me to understand it as much as possible, rather than it being the most practical bike I can get.
I totally forgot that there's mountains all over between Yerevan and Tbilisi. So yeah, I mean, last time I came it wasn't this cold, but now it's snowing.
Eventually I crossed the border into warmer weather and was finally getting a little bit more familiar with this bike. After a long cold ride, we made it here to Tbilisi, Georgia. The whole border process was pretty easy. But anyways, we're here. I already gave off a few days ago the bike to a suspension guy that just specializes in suspension, and he was able to source the seal that was needed for that fork. I'm also waiting on these guys that do custom fabrication jobs for them to completely redo the entire rear subframe on the XR400, because that is like a very weak point for the bike in my opinion, especially if you're going to do hard riding with luggage. It's just not made to have any weight on there. So yeah, I'm honestly psyched to show you guys in the future what that whole thing will look like. From here, I'm not too sure of how I'm going to get to the east, either through Azerbaijan by trucking it there and then taking a ferry from Baku to Kazakhstan, or by trying to go through the border of Russia and then making it through Kazakhstan that way. But at the moment, I'm not too sure. I'm planning on testing out the bike around here in Georgia, especially in the south where it's going to be a little bit warmer and some awesome riding that I haven't looked at yet. So in the next video, I'll try to let you guys know about which route I'm taking. But until then, see you next time.